Hi, good morning. Thank you for joining. Let's begin our session. So we were now discussing about file permissions in Linux actually. In Linux, we were now discussing about file permissions. So in the previous session, like we understood like there are different types of file permissions like read, write, execute. And we have different types of users like owner, group, and others. These are the types of file permissions and users we have seen yesterday in the previous session. And usually we know, like suppose if whenever we create any file, we connect to the server. Connect. Okay. So we got connected to the server. Anyhow, I'm just using a command called sudo su hyphen to switch from normal regular user to the root user. I'm using clear command to clear the screen. And currently, I'm just using ls command. ls command is mainly to see the list of files and directories. I don't have any files and directories now currently. So I'm going to create one file now by using a touch command. So I'm just creating one file called touch file one, touch space file one, so that the file one will be created. And to verify whether file one is created or not, we can use ls command to see whether file one is created or not. Yes, file one is created. And we have a command called ls-l. We have a command called ls-l. So this particular command gives us the more detailed information about ls-l command gives us the more detailed information about that particular file. We can see here, this is the file name and the date and time when did the date and time of the file modified lastly. So this is the date and time when did the file modify lastly. It will show us the date and time. If the file is modified recently, it will print that particular time. The file name will print the date and time when the file is modified. And this 0 indicates here. This 0 indicates the size of the file. 0 indicates the size of the file. And we understood these two. Okay, one is owner of the file, one represents owner of the file, and the other represents the group the file belongs to. Okay, owner of the file and the group the file belongs to. This particular one represents the hard link. The one represents the hard link. Okay, this one represents the hard link. And the first these things. Okay, first these things are the file permissions. There will be 10 characters actually. Okay, when we use ls-l command, we can see some 10 permissions here. 10 characters will be there. So those 10 characters will be usually represented as file permissions. We discussed already, we can, with the help of first character, okay, the help of first character, we can determine whether that is a file or directory. And we are dividing like the next three characters belongs to the owner, the next three belongs to group, and the next three belongs to others. This is how we understand the file permissions, okay. These three represent the file permissions of the owner. These three represents the file permissions of the group, file permissions of others. We understood each and everything, but this one represents the hard links, HARD, hard links of the file. For example, I have only file one now, okay. Currently, if I give ls command to show you, I have only one file. And to understand the hard links, I'm just showing you an example. How can we understand the hard links and all? What is hard link and how can we understand the hard links? Just for example, I'm giving ls-l command to show you the more detailed information. Okay, I'm clearing the screen and I'm giving ls. I have only one file, which is file one. I'm also giving another command called ls-l to display the detailed information about that particular file, as I told so far. Okay, file permissions, hard links, owner of the file, group which the file belongs to. This is the size of the file, date and time when the file was modified lastly, and this is the file name. This is how it prints. It gives us the long list, okay, detailed information about the file. And now we are trying to understand what is a hard link. To understand hard link, currently I have only one file and the number of hard links it is showing as only one. what I'm doing is I'm going to create, I'm running one more command. And you see, if I see the content present in file one, if I show you the content present in file one, I don't have any content. Why? Because file one is an empty file. I created file one just by using touch command. So file one is an empty file now. I'm using one more command, which is called ln file one space file two. I'm just using another command called ln space file one file two. Okay, this ln command is used to create hard links. ln command is used to create hard links. Let me tell you what is hard link exactly here. If I'm executing this command, you can see, okay, after running this command, ln stands for creating hard link. ln command is used to create a link, okay, creating hard link. So now I'm creating another file called file2 based on the same file content present in file 1. So whatever the content we have in file 1, the same content will be pointing to the file 2 also. Okay, content will be there in a single place, but references will be two. There will be two references for the same content. One is file 1 and another one is file 2. Now you can see here ls-l command. You can see ls-l command. What is ls-l? It is displaying the detailed information. Sai, can you hear me? Can you able to understand? So
Yes, yes.
earlier how many number of hard links it was showing?
It was one.
Only one. So when I executed this command, ln space file one, file one was already there. It's an empty file. I'm going to create one more file. Okay, with the file content of, with the file content of file one. I'm creating one more file name with the same file content of file one. So now I'm giving ls-l command. It is showing like two hard links for both file one and file two. File one is having two links. File two is having two links, two hard links. Here hard link means it is saying that, so we have a file called file one. The content of this one is referring by another file also. This hard link refers, this hard link says that the content of this file is referring by another file. So let's remove. Okay, let me show you. I'm just editing the file. Okay, I'm just editing the file. vi space. For now, you can, before I edit the file, you can see I'm showing you cat space file one. I don't have any content in file one. Let me show you if I have any content in file two. No, no content. Both are empty files only. Let me edit file one. vi space file one. I'm just giving welcome something. Okay, just giving like welcome something. Escape. Should call it double. So now I'm just giving cat command to show you. I'm using cat command to show you what is the content that I have given. Welcome is the content that I have added. Can you guess now what will be the content present in file 2 also? I did not edit it and modified file 2. But when I see the contents of file 2, the contents of file 1 will be automatically reflected to file 2. You got it right? So what I'm doing is, if I'm having any file, if I want to create any other file with the same content, okay, if I want to create another file with the same contents, and I can use a command like ln. ln stands for creating a link, so that the file one with the same content present in the file one, another file will be created, which is called file two. Okay, now we can see both the files is having the same content. Let me remove one file. And you can see ls-l. How many hard links it is showing now? Two hard links. It is showing two hard links. When I remove file 2, I'm just removing file 2, rm space, okay, file 2, I'm just removing it. Now you can give ls-l. You can see how many hard links it is showing. There is no other file called file 2. We have only one file, and that file is having the content. If I create another file, and if the same content of file 1 is copied to that particular file by using ln command, then the number of hard links will be shown as 2. So finally, what I would like to say is, this hard links represents that there is a similar kind of content present in the another file, referring by another file name, similar content of this file similar content of this file, referring by another file. In that case, it will show like hard links as 2, 3, something like that. You got it, right? So I'm creating like ln space file 1, file 2. I'm just creating. Sorry, we don't have target file, file 3. I'm just creating one. Let me show it. So I'm just giving like ln space file 1 and file 3. You can give by just by giving ls space hyphen l. You can see earlier we created file 2, right? Now I'm showing you like hard links as 2. Meaning whatever the content present in file 1 will be just copied to the file 3. Usually the content will not be copied here. The same content will be referred by this file also. Okay, we need to understand that the same content of file 1 will be referred by the other file called file 3. That's how we need to understand the hard links. So we understood when I'm giving ls command, you know what are the things that we need to understand basically. When I'm giving ls command, you understood, right? These are the file permissions. This represents the hard links. Owner of the file, group of the file belongs to, size of the file, date and time when did the file is lastly modified, name of the file. This is how we need to understand when I give ls hyphen l. We have some other combinations like ls hyphen lt, ls hyphen lt. So ls hyphen lt will give you the files in some order in timestamp. lt stands for t stands for timestamp. Based on the timestamp, it will show you the list of the files. Suppose if the file is created at 348, now I am going to create one more file. That's a space file 4. I'm creating one more file. I'm giving ls-lt. Can you see now? The file is created at 352. Now, very recently, new file is created. And earlier, both the files were created at the same timestamp. That's why it is showing like based on the timestamps, it is displaying all the list of files. Understood? T refers the timestamp here. ls-l, we understood the meaning of ls-l is it will just show us the detailed information. T represents the timestamp here. It will display the list as per the timestamp. We also have the other combination like ls-ltr. So reverse order, in some reverse order. You see here earlier ls-lt is displaying the reverse of very recent files created. Whatever the recent files that were created, it is displaying on the top. And now here the recent files which were created, it is displaying on the bottom. Recent files created, it is displaying on the top. The recent files created is displaying on the bottom. This is how actually the files will be. We can see the detailed information about the file and all. Fine, let's start with, okay, these are some of the Linux commands, basic Linux commands that we have understood. We understood how to create a file, how to create a directory. How can we copy the content from one file to another file? How can we copy the contents of one directory to another directory? All these things. How can we navigate to the directory? How can we come back to the previous location? Basic commands, very basic commands we have understood. Still, there are many things to understand in Linux. We have many things to understand in Linux. Before we proceed to all those things, okay, before we proceed to all those things, um, let's start with the basic things of shell scripting so that we will also learn some other Linux commands there. Okay. We'll start with basic things of Linux shell scripting. Okay. Let's understand. So, okay. Let's understand what is shell scripting and all. Why? Because for the DevOps engineers, okay, for the DevOps engineers and for the people who will be working on the cloud and all, definitely shell scripting is very much important. They need to understand and they need to write shell scripting. What is the prerequisite? What is the prerequisite for the shell scripting? So the basic prerequisite for the shell scripting is like Linux commands. If you know the basic Linux commands, okay, if you know the Linux commands, then definitely you can able to understand the shell scripting. And while learning the shell scripting, you can also learn some other Linux commands. Okay. So let's understand what is shell and what is shell and what is actually shell scripting and all. Let's understand with shell. Okay. What is shell? Let's understand what is shell and all. So shell is a command line interpreter. Shell is a command line interpreter. It provides an interface between user and the kernel. For example, let me show you. When I'm giving ls command here, when I'm giving ls command, We are getting the output, right? It is displaying file 1, file 3, and file 4. How we are getting the output? So who is receiving this command when I'm giving ls? Okay, when I'm typing ls on the command line, this ls command will be received by it will be received by a program called shell, and it will be sending the same input. Okay, it will be sending the same thing to the OS, and again from the OS it is receiving the output. Okay, let me show you the diagram. Shell is an interpreter that provides an interface between user and operating system. User and the operating system. For example, if you look at the diagram, let me show you the diagram so that you will be understanding. So who will be receiving the Linux commands? Well, suppose if I am typing the Linux command ls, assume that if I am giving an ls command, so who is receiving the input? Ls command, and who it is forwarding to the operating system, kernel operating system. Right to understand. When I'm just giving, okay, I'm just giving ls command. I'm just passing ls command. So that ls command will be received by the shell program. Okay. The shell program will be sending that input to the kernel OS. Okay, OS. Finally, our operating system must understand what we are giving. Okay. If operating system doesn't understand, we cannot receive the output. So whatever the input that you are typing, that will be received by the shell. Shell will forward that input to the OS. OS understands it. OS understands it. OS will return the output to the shell, and again shell will return the output to you. Okay, it will just list out all the files and directories. So shell is a mediator. Shell is a mediator between you and operating system. Shell is a program. Shell is a mediator between you and operating system. It receives the commands. It receives the Linux command. Whatever the Linux commands you type, it receives the Linux commands, and it will forward that Linux commands it will forward that inputs to the OS, and from the OS, it will be getting the output, and again, it is displaying the output to the user. So that's what we are trying to understand here. What is shell? Shell is nothing but it's a command line interpreter. Whatever you give in the command line, that will interprets and gives that input to the kernel operating system so that we are executing our commands. You can see here, I'm just giving a very small example to how actually ls command works. We are just typing the ls command in the terminal. I connected to the server, and we are just typing ls command in the terminal. Okay, the shell interprets the ls command. Who understands the ls command? The ls command will understand only by the shell program only. The ls command can be understandable by the shell program. So shell understands it and sends the request to the kernel. Kernel accesses the file system and retrieves the list of files. Again, shell receives the list of files from the kernel and displays it to you. If you understand these 4 lines, then you will understand what is shell. Shell is a mediator. Okay, shell is a mediator. It is an interpreter. Whatever the input you give from the command line, shell understands it. Shell interprets it. Shell understands it, interprets it, and sending a request to the kernel operating system. Again, kernel will process it. Kernel will gives you the output. So shell receives the output and displays it to you. This is what happening. So usually we will be calling the shell as a scripting language. Why shell is called as scripting language? Usually the interpreter-based languages are called scripting languages. Usually we know, right? Programming language. We have programming languages like Java, Python, C, C++. There are many programming languages, right? All the compiler-based languages. Compiler-based languages are the programming languages. Compiler-based languages are the programming languages. Interpreter-based languages are scripting languages. Compiler. So if you understand, if you are using a programming language like Java, Python, C++, C#, all these are the programming languages. They are compiler-based ones. The scripting languages are the interpreter-based ones. Do you know what is the difference between interpreter and compiler? So interpreter will scan the code and interpreter will read the code line by line. Compiler will scans the entire code. Compiler will scans the entire code and it will validates. You see here, if the entire program is valid as per the syntax, then only the program will start its execution. As per in the programming language. Okay, I'm talking about programming language. If the entire program is valid as per the syntax, then only it will start executing the program. This is the behavior of programming language. So shell scripting will not be like that. Shell scripting is an interpreter based. It executes line by line. If it throws the error at 10th line, it executes it. It will start executing all the nine lines. And if it finds any error at the 10th line, it will throw the error at 10th line. But programming language behavior is different. If the entire program is valid as per the syntax, then only program will start its execution. When we come to the scripting language, this is an interpreter-based language. It executes line by line. If the error is at 9th line or 10th line, it starts executing from the first line. If the error is if it finds error if it finds any error at 10th line, until 10th line, it will execute the program. That is the difference between scripting language and programming language. Okay, let's see some examples to understand what is this shell scripting and all. Okay, let's start with some examples so that you will understand. Okay, you will understand definitely. For example, basic. Okay, let's understand a very basic shell scripting so that you will understand how actually we will write a shell script. Okay, how actually we write a shell script. We are going to save the shell script files with .sh extension. We are going to save the shell script file with .sh extension. It is not mandatory. Even if you do not save the file with .sh extension, that is fine. But the general convention is, we save the files with .sh extension. We save the file with .sh extension. For example, you see, we know how to execute Linux commands, okay? And if you know the basic Linux commands, you can learn the shell scripting very easily. We are starting with the very basics of, we are now starting with very basics of shell scripting. For example, how I am going to save the shell script file. I am just giving sample.sh. What is this sh? This .sh extension tells us this file contains shell script. Okay, sample.sh. You know, right? If it is a Java file, we will save the file with .java extension, .c, .py. If it is a Python file, we'll save the file with .py. Like that, we have a file called sample, and I'm saving this file with .sh extension. I'm editing the file. Why? Because I'm using VA editor. Okay, I'm opening it. Insert. I'm just giving some commands here. I'm just going to give some commands. These are the commands. These are the Linux commands I'm using. Username, pwd, who, host name, all these things. Okay. For example, I'm just giving let me give you. I have a command like who am I, username, pass, pwd. Pwd stands for print working directory. These are the Linux commands. You know, you can execute these Linux commands independently also. Let me do it. I'm not saving anything here. I'm not saving anything. Escape, colon, escape, shift, colon. I'm not saving, you see. I'm just showing you by using cat space sample dot h sample dot sh. I didn't save anything. Okay. I'm removing it for now. Sample dot sh. I'm just removing this one. Cannot remove. We don't have anything. Okay. So we didn't, the file is not created. Okay. File is not yet created. No problem. So now you can see here, I'm just going to show you the Linux commands. Okay. We have a Linux command called uname. This is the Linux command. What is the username? Well, what is uname? Uname command will print you the operating system name. What operating system you are using. If you want to know what operating system you are using, you can just give a command like uname. Uname will give you the name of the operating system. This is the operating system that you are using. Linux is the operating system. Let's go and give the other Linux command. I'm just using a command called pwd. You are aware of this pwd command. Pwd stands for print working directory or present working directory. It will just print the path of the current working directory. So where you are now, I am at the root location now. It is just printing the /root. This is the location that I am working now. That's the reason why it is printing /root. User uname uses the operating system name. Uname is giving us the operating system name. PWD gives us the present working directory or current working directory location. And the other commands I'm just showing you, like what are the other commands? Who am I? Okay, who am I? I just wanted to know what type of user I am. What type of user I am. I am a root user. There are different types of users, right? Root user. Okay, I'm a root user. Maybe we can create many users. Okay, we can create. Linux is a multi-user operating system. We can create multiple users, and multiple users can use the same machine. Who am I? When I'm giving who am I, it is giving like you are a root user. To know what type of user I'm just trying to understand like who am I command. With the help of who am I, it is printing like root user. And I'm also giving that host name. Host name is also one of the Linux command. If I give the host name, it is printing like this is the IP address. Okay, this is the IP address, internal IP address of that server. If you give the host name, it will print the internal IP address of that particular server. This is the internal IP address of the server. To know the host name, okay? To know the host name, we will give a Linux command called host name. Host name is nothing but internal IP address of that particular server. Fine. Now what I'm going to do is I want to run all the 4 commands at a time. I would like to run all the 4 commands at a time. That's why what I'm doing is I'm writing a command. I'm creating a file called sample.sh. I'm creating a file called sample.sh. And inside the file, I would like to give all the 4 commands. Okay, these are the 4 commands that I'm copying and I'm pasting it over here. Can you see I'm giving 4 commands? Username, pwd, who am I, host name. These are the 4 commands that I'm giving. I'm saving this file. You know how to save this file and all. Now what I'm doing is I want to run this file. How to run this file? So there is a process to run the file. How to run this file? I'm using a particular mechanism like /sample.sh. How to run the file? /sample.sh. This is how I'm running the file. /sample.sh. I'm trying to run a file, okay? I'm creating a file vi space sample.sh and I'm trying to run the file /sample.sh. And when I'm trying to run the file, it is denying. So meaning when I give ls-l and if I see the sample.sh file permissions, during the file creation itself, you can see the file creation sample.sh is created, but the file is created. Okay, the file is created without execute permissions, right? It doesn't have any execute permissions. It doesn't have execute permissions. So we can provide execute permissions for this file. How can we provide execute permissions? If I want to provide execute permissions, I'm just running a command like chmod 777 sample.sh. I want to provide all permissions to owner group as well as others. Okay, you can see 777 sample.sh. Can you see 777 sample.sh? I'm modifying the file permissions of sample.sh. Now I'm going to run the file. How to run the file? /sample.sh. I'm running the file. I'm just executing this file by using a command called /sample.sh. You can see now all the 4 commands got executed and we're able to see the output. For username, for uname, it has printed the output as Linux operating system. And for the pwd command, it printed the current location, current working directory path. And who am I? For the who am I command, it is printing the root user. You are a root user. And for the host name, it is printing the internal IP address. These are the things that it is printing as output. Okay, I'm just running the command as /sample.sh so that the It is executing all the Linux commands one by one and it is printing the output here. So what is a script? Okay, for now, you need to understand what is a script. Script is nothing but a combination or group of Linux commands. If you run some set of Linux commands at a time, that will be called as a script. Okay, if you have any questions in understanding a script, it is very simple. If you are going to execute some set of Linux commands at a time, that will be called as a script. So what I did now, I created a file called sample.sh. I kept all my Linux commands inside the file. I ran the file by simply using a command called /sample.sh so that the file is executing and it is giving the output. This is how I'm running my script. Okay, let me show you some other examples to understand better. I'm just going to show you some other examples. Okay. Right. So yesterday itself we understood like there is a command called echo command. Very simple. Okay. Echo. Echo is used to display the output in the terminal. Echo is used to display the output in the terminal. You know, right? So basically, I'm just creating one more file called sample2.sh. Okay, let me create one more file. Try to understand how I'm writing, how we need to learn shell scripting. Okay, let's see. I'm just creating one more file. How to create a file? I told you, right? By simply giving vi space file name.sh. Okay, by simply giving a vi space file name. See, you can create file name in different ways. If you want to create, you can create like this sample.touch space sample.sh. .sh is the extension that you are providing. Okay, it is not mandatory. You can create a file like sample1, something like this. Sample file is already there. That's why I'm giving sample1, touch space sample1. Okay, otherwise, better convention is good practice is giving extension to the file based on the requirement that you are creating. Since you are working with shell scripting, you want to recognize that file as shell script file. That's the reason why you need to give .sh as the extension. I'm giving sample1.sh. I'm creating this file. So empty file will be created. You can see by giving ls command, yes, sample.sh is created. Sample1.sh is created. Now you can edit the file. How to edit? Sample1.sh, vi space, sample.sh. Okay, you can create an empty file and you can edit the file. This is one approach. Or otherwise, directly you can also come up with vi space file name. Directly you can create vi space file name and you can modify whatever the content you want to provide. You can provide and you can save the file. That is another approach. Okay, vi space sample1.sh. I'm opening so the file will be opened with an editor. So whatever the commands that you would like to print, you see, I'm just giving some echo commands. I would like to give some echo commands over here. Try to understand. Nothing is here. What I'm doing is, you see what is the content that I have provided. I have given four echo commands. Echo, all the four commands. Okay. What I'm trying to print, what is the echo command? You know, right? What is the echo command? Let me show you here. What is echo? To understand what is echo, echo is used to display the output in the terminal. If you want to display any output in the terminal, you can use echo command. Every echo command gives the output in the new line. We have four commands here, four echo commands here, echo hello, echo h1, pqrs, abcd, whatever the thing you can give. I'm just giving four echo commands. And whatever the string that you would like to print, hello is one string, h1 is a string, whatever the content that you would like to print, we are enclosing in double quotations. Right? So let me run this file. How to run this file? Anybody? Sai, how to run this file? I've saved the file, right? Sample1.sh. I saved the file, sample1.sh.
/ and then file name.
File name. File name, sample1.sh. What is our file? Our file is sample1.sh. Again, it is denying permissions. What should we do? We should see the file permissions, ls by giving ls-l. ls-1, you see sample1. Sample1 doesn't have the execute permissions. Now you can understand what is execute permissions. Anywhere can we see execute? X permissions are there? No. This file doesn't have execute permissions. If it is showing like permission denied, better you can modify, okay? Better you can modify the file name. I'm just doing it like chmod triple seven. I'm just giving like 700. 700, right? For owner only, I'm giving all the permissions. For group and others, I'm not giving any permissions. Okay. I'm just saving this. I'm just modifying the file permissions of the file. And I'm running the file with sample.sample1.sh. Now I am able to. So if you understand now, I gave permissions. I gave 5 file permissions only to the owner. Right?
Yes,
There are two
yes.
types of users: owner, group, as well as others. I did
Yes.
modified only file permissions to the owner. I'm able to execute. I'm able to execute. I'm able to see the output. What is the output that we got? What is your observation here? What is the output that we got? So
Whatever we have given in the
whatever the
input.
whatever the thing, whatever the contents you have provided, whatever the strings you would like to print, everything is getting printed on the terminal. Hello is printed on the terminal. H1 is printed on the terminal. Everything is printed on the terminal. Whatever the strings that you enclosed in double quotes, all the strings that you enclosed in the double quotes, everything is getting printed on the terminal, right? Yes. So now you understand what is echo command also. Echo command is used to display the output on the terminal. Every echo command gives the output in a new line. Did you observe one important thing here? Every echo command is printing an output in the new line. Hello is printed on the new line. H1 is printed on the new line. PQRS, ABC, everything is printed on the new line. Let's go ahead and the important observation here, we are getting the result in 4 lines. We are getting the result in 4 lines. And one more important observation, once the command is executed, once the echo command is executed, cursor will by default comes to the next line. What is the default behavior of echo command? Once the echo command is executed, cursor will by default comes to the next line. And you don't want to do like that. You don't want to do, if you want to avoid that, you can use -n option. You can use -n option. What is the purpose of -n? -n is used to avoid, you see, if you want to print everything on the same line, if you want to print all the outputs on the same line, here, in the above example, hello is printed on a new line, H1 is printed on a new line, PQRS is printed on a new line. By default, we are not giving any input for the cursor to move to the next line. Whenever you use echo command, the default behavior of echo command is what? Once an echo command is executed, the cursor will by default comes to the next line and it is printing H1. Once this echo command is executed, by default, it is coming to the next line. The default behavior of the echo command is like the cursor is moving to the next line. Whenever it executed echo command, it is coming to the next line. Once it executes this H1, it is coming to the next line. If you want to avoid that, if you want to print everything on the same line, if you want to print hello, H1, PQRS, ABCD, everything on the same line, we can use -n option. Let me save this one with a different in a different file. What I'm doing is I'm going to create a new file called sample2.sh. I'm creating a new file called sample2.sh. Insert. And I'm going to give these 4 lines. Escape, Shift:/WQ. I would like to show you what is the output that I have provided. What is the file content that I have provided? Can you see here? Echo, hello, echo H1, PQRS, ABCD. And what is the different thing that I'm using here? What is different that I'm using here? When compared to the previous example, what is the different one that I'm using here? -n option.
-n.
What is this -n? What does this -n gives us? Okay, let me run this. How to run this? Before I run, we know it says that permissions will be denied. That's why I'm giving all permissions to the owner. And I'm giving permissions to sample2.sh. And I'm going to run /sample2.sh. This is how we run the shell script file. When I'm running the shell script file, it is printing the output. You see, what is the by default nature of the echo command? Once an echo command is executed, the cursor will by default move to the next line usually. But here, since I am adding -n option, the cursor is not moving to the next line. Cursor will stay on the same line. If you use -n, the cursor will not goes to the new line. Cursor will stays on the same line. It will print everything on the same line. Echo n, hello, is printing on the line, same line. H1, hello, H1, PQRS, ABCD, everything is printing on the same line. Suppose if you want to give some spaces, okay, if you want to provide some spaces, what I will do is, I will give some space here. Next to hello, I'm leaving some space. Next to H1, I'm leaving some space. PQRS, I'm leaving some space. ABCD, I'm leaving some space. I'm taking this now. Okay, I'm just taking this now. I'm going to create a new file, sample3.sh. I'm not disturbing the existing ones. I'm creating a new one, sample3.sh. Insert. I'm going to paste it. Whatever I copied, I paste it. Escape shift colon W key. You can see I'm just showing you sample3.sh. Hello, there is a space. Okay, after H1, we have a space. After PQRS, we have space. After ABCD, we have space. After hello, we have space. Okay, I just gave the space after printing every string. Okay, now I would like to run. Before I run, I will give the permission chmod 700 sample3.sh. For this file, I'm giving permissions. So then I'm going to execute sample3.sh sample3.sh. And there is one more command. You can also use this command sh space sample3.sh. There are two different ways. Okay, we have different ways to execute the shell scripting. Either we can use /sample.sh. Otherwise, you can also use a command called sh space file name. Sh space file name. You can give sh space file name. Can you see the output here? What makes a difference to the previous output? In the previous output, are we finding any spaces between one output, the other output? After hello, it is not leaving any space, right? Everything is printed on the same line. Here also everything is getting printed on the same line, but we just left some spaces, right? What is the difference between this particular line and this particular line? We just gave some space between each and every output. That's why it is printing. Meaningful. Okay, to understand, it is printing hello, H1, PQRS, ABCD, to print everything on the same line. To print everything on the same line, we are just using -n option. If I use -n, the cursor will not move to the next line. Okay, immediately after executing the echo command, the cursor will not move to the next line. Hope you got it. Okay, hope you got it. How we are avoiding the cursor moving to the next line. By default, once an echo command is executed, the cursor will move to the next line. If you want to avoid that, you can use -n option. Next, we are going to a different. We are going to the new one. Like we will understand like what is variable. Okay, what is variable? Let's understand. So there is no concept of data type in the shell scripting. You don't need to define. Suppose if you are declaring a variable, okay. Usually, in the programming language, we use int a is equal to 10, float a is equal to 10.5. Like that, we use some data type. Okay, we will define some data type. In shell scripting, there is no concept of data type. You don't need to use data type. You don't need to represent the data type. By default, it understands if you give the value here, if I'm giving a is equal to 10, by default, it understands that 10 is an integer. The only way you need to represent is the variable name and the variable value. Variable name and the variable value. A is equal to 10. That's it. Even if you are giving some 20.5, okay, if you want to give some floating point number also, you don't need to give like float a is equal to 20.5. You don't need to mention the data type. No need of mentioning the data type. No concept of data type. By default, it will understand. You need to represent the variable and you need to represent the value. That's it. Okay. So let me show you how we are going to do it. So let me show some example also. Okay. Try to understand here. I'm showing you very simple script here. A is equal to 10. What is the meaning here? A is a variable. 10 is the value that we are assigning to this variable. A is equal to 10. There are no spaces here. We are not giving any space. We are not leaving any spaces. You can see. We are not leaving any spaces between A and 10. A is equal to 10. We are assigning a value called 10 to the A variable. And if I want to access the value of the variable A, if I want to access the value of the variable A, we use $symbol. We need to understand the importance of dollar here. To access the value stored in a variable, you can store the value in a variable. 10 is the value being stored in a variable called A. If you want to access the value, you need to prefix a dollar symbol. Okay, let me copy the script. I'm going to create one more file, vi space sample4.sh. I'm just creating one more file and insert. I'm giving this content here. Escape, shift, colon, W. Cat space sample4.sh. I'm just giving sample4.sh. To show you, these are the two lines that I'm giving. A is equal to 10. I'm not leaving any spaces between A and 10. A is equal to 10 is the one I'm using, echo command I'm using. Within the double quotations, I'm using $A. What is the meaning? You know the purpose of echo command, right? Echo will print whatever is present inside the double quotes that will be printed on the terminal, right? So if I want to access the value of this one, if I give only A, it will print only A. But I want to print the value of the variable. If I want to print the value of the variable, if I want to access the value of the variable, you need to use dollar symbol. Any questions in understanding what is the importance of dollar here? The importance of dollar is to access the value of the variable. If I use $A, can you guess what is the output that we will be getting now? What is the output that we will be getting now? Very simple, right? What is the output that we are going to get now?
10.
10. Okay. I'm giving the permissions. I'm going to use sample4.sh. I'm running this file. Can you see now? I'm just able to see the output as 10. I just assigned the value 10 to the variable A, and I'm trying to access the value from the variable A. To access the value, I'm using a dollar symbol. I'm prefixing the dollar symbol to the variable. Try to understand in shell scripting. If you want to access the value of the variable, you need to prefix dollar symbol. You need to prefix dollar symbol to that variable so that you can able to access. Hope you understood the importance of dollar symbol. Okay, you understood the importance of dollar symbol, right? Yes. Now you see, you will get error if you run this particular script. A is equal to 10. Okay. Don't leave any spaces while assigning any value to the variable. If you leave the space here, definitely you will get the error. This is not acceptable. This is not valid as per the syntax. This is not valid as per the syntax. Okay. This is not valid as per the syntax. Okay, you should not give any space. You should not leave any spaces between a variable and the value. And you understood the importance of prefixing dollar symbol. We are prefixing dollar symbol before the variable to access the value of that variable. Hope you understood what is the importance of dollar symbol. Any questions? Okay, let's go ahead with another example. You can see here I'm just giving some more variables here. A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20.5, C is equal to C. I'm just giving my name here. So here, what is the difference between A, B, C variables? What is the value that I'm assigning for A? What is the value that I'm assigning for A? 10. Then is an integer. What is 20.5? It is a floating point value, right? 20.5 is a floating point value. What about this one? This is a string. Okay, for this one, for C, I'm assigning a string. Did you understand the difference between the values and the string? If you are going to assign some string to a variable, okay, you should take care of enclosing them inside the double quotes. If you are going to use the string, please enclose the string within double quotes. For value, you should not. If you are giving the value, any integer value or floating point value, you should not enclose it in the double quotes. If you are giving the string, you should enclose the string within double quotes. Anyone guess what is the output now? What is the output that we are going to get? I'm going to save this file with sample5.sh. I'm going to save this sample5.sh. I'm just giving whatever the lines that I've copied, right? I'm just copying it over here. Escape, shift, colon, WQ. And I'm showing you by using cat command cat sample5.sh to show you these are the 6 lines that I have given, the 6 lines that I have provided. A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20.5, C is equal to 1C. And I'm trying to print echo. You understood? What is the importance of dollar symbol here? Echo $A. I'm trying to access the value of the variable $A. I'm trying to access the value of the variable A. $B. I'm trying to access the value of variable B. At the same time, I'm trying to access the value of variable C. What is variable C? Value. What is the value of variable C? My name. Okay. Now, how to execute this? Chmod 700. You know what is the importance of 700, right? I'm giving permissions. I'm giving all permissions. Read, write, execute permissions to the owner. Chmod 700 sample 5.sh. You can choose to run. Second, I'm asking some more. Okay, you can see my screen, right? So I'm just going to modify the sample5.sh permissions, and I'm going to run. How to run? Dot slash. I told you 2 ways, right? How to execute the file. Sam dot slash. One is dot slash, other one is sh space one dot slash sample5.sh 10, 20.5, and 1. It's printing. I'm just trying to access the values of the variables $A, $B, $C. $A is 10, $B is 20.5, $C is 1C. Hope you understood at least now what is the importance of dollar symbol. Got it? Okay, now let's see this example. Okay, you can look at this example and guess the output. What is the output that you are going to get? Can you guess the example? Can you look at this particular code and can you guess what is the output that we are going to get after running this one? A is equal to 10. Try to understand. A is equal to 10. Echo $A. What is the meaning of echo $A? I'm just trying to access the value of the variable A. So what is the output that is printed here? 10. After that, again, I'm assigning variable. I'm assigning 20 to the variable A. I'm trying to print this one. So can you guess? This is an example. This is a perfect example to understand. Shell is an interpreter based one. It executes line by line. First, it will read the line 1. It understands that A is equal to 10. There is a value assigned to the variable A, that is 10. And then next it comes to the second line. It is printing the value of A. What is the value of A? 10. Then it comes to the third line. Now, what is the value of 20? What is the value of A now? When it comes to the third line, what is the value of A now? 20. And when it comes to the fourth line, the value of A will get changes. Okay, let me run this code. And you can guess and tell me what is the output that you are going to get. In the first line, I have A is equal to 10. It is going to print the value of A as 10. When it comes to the third line, the A is 20, and it is going to print the value of A as 20. For now, I'm just copying it, and I'm going to show you this output. I'm going to give this as sample6.sh, something like that. You also can practice, okay? I'll provide all these things to you people. You can practice all these things. Sample6.sh. Set. Escape, shift, colon, W. Add space, sample6.sh. Okay. Okay, this is the code that I have provided. I'm going to give the file permissions. Sample6.sh. Now I'm going to run the sample6.sh. 10 and 20. Okay, as we expected, it is printing the output as 10 and 20. When it reads the first line, it understands that the value of A is 20. Value of A is 10, it is printing the 10. When it comes to the third line, it is understanding that the value of A is 20 and it is printing the value of A as 20. 10 and 20 is the output that we expected. Okay. Now, You see, we are going to learn a new thing called which is read-only variable. Okay, once the value is assigned to variable, we can make that as a read-only. We can make that as a read-only. Why? Because you see here, when I'm giving the value of a is 10, and in the third line, when I'm giving the value of a as 20, the value is being changed dynamically. Here, it is 10. And when it comes to the third line, the value is being changed. The value of a is 20 here. So to avoid this, we need to understand the read-only variables. We can mark the variable as read-only. If you don't want to change the value of the variable, you can make the variable as read-only. For that, you can specify read-only A. If you use this read-only, okay, if you can provide this read-only A, we cannot change the value of the read-only variable. Suppose if I am giving A is equal to 10. And throughout the program, I don't want to make any changes. I don't want this A value to be updated with any other one. So that what you can do is you can make it as read-only A so that the value of the variable will not be changed throughout the program. Even if I give like A is equal to 20 here, it will throw the error. It will throw the error and it says that you already mentioned the value of the A as read-only. Again, you are trying to modify the A value as 20, then it will throw the error. We'll see this example in the upcoming sessions. You have any questions in understanding these things so far? What is shell scripting? Very simple. Shell scripting is very simple, okay? You need to understand shell. If you know the Linux commands, okay? We are learning the basic Linux commands and shell scripting at a time. If you know the Linux commands, you can learn the shell scripting very easily, okay? Any questions in today's session? Anybody?
No.
Thank you all. I will send you the recorded session. Please go through it. And you can come up with any questions in tomorrow session. Okay. Thank you all. Let's meet tomorrow. We'll continue with shell scripting for some 5 to 6 sessions. Okay. We'll understand.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all. Yeah.